This week on All Star Fandom, we dive into the fan film Uncharted, The Oxus Redemption, with directors and writers Danielo Barcelli and Sarah Leiker of Luxxe Media. Uncharted, The Oxus Redemption is the unofficial sequel to Uncharted 4. After a tragedy in Nathan Drake's life, he's forced to make a comeback into the life he thought he left behind. So, let's find out more about this stellar fan film, Uncharted, The Oxus Redemption. As both writers and directors of the Oxus Redemption, what was the initial spark or idea that led you to embark on the project? And how did that evolve from concept to screenplay?
Well, the initial idea was Chris Stanley reached out to us, so our casted Nathan Drake. He actually reached out to us after we'd already worked together on a few jobs prior and just said, hey, what do you guys think about doing an Uncharted short film? Because that's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to
Yeah.
be a short. Very quickly that changed and it evolved into a story much bigger than any of us originally expected it to. But yeah, it definitely started just with like a small conversation, just bringing it up and like talking
Yeah,
about it.
because we had done Samurai Spawn, then we did a little Batman thing, then a Wolverine.
And
So they were
Wolverine. Yeah.
3 minutes apiece. And so this was just like another, all right, Uncharted next. And the more we talked about it, it just evolved and evolved and then ended up with a 57-page script. And we're just like, hey, look, you can pick a scene or two from it if you want. And like, nah, you
Let's
know
do the
what?
whole thing.
Let's do it.
So originally,
And
how short was it supposed to be?
Probably
Because it's about 54 minutes.
it was
What was it
supposed to
supposed to?
like 15
yeah.
Oh,
max,
okay.
and then very quickly it was like 15 minutes became one scene, and we were like, oh, there's still more to talk about, and it just the story kept going.
And at that time we were really, the three of us were really getting into the groove with making stuff like that. So we just wanted to keep flexing the muscle, keep going, like, all right, what if we do a gun fight, and then what if we do an actual fight, and then what if we travel to a location, and it ended up being just bigger.
Yeah.
And Chris always said like this was about showing what everyone on the project could do, exhibit all the talents.
Yeah.
And yeah, we ended up being happy that it was longer.
It technically counts as a feature film now, so
Oh,
we got,
okay.
so it's pretty good.
Yeah,
So in that world, what's the length to count as a feature film?
45 minutes plus.
Oh, really? Okay, gotcha. So,
So
with Chris reaching out, were you all fans or familiar with the Uncharted series before? And we had other stuff out there around the time too. But were you fans of the game or fans of the property in general?
We knew the game pretty well. I hadn't personally played. I'd played parts of Uncharted 4 with like my cousins and stuff, when they
Yeah.
were like first came out and the PS4 was new and everything. But I'd never really sat down to play it. I just knew the story and the characters.
and when Chris sort of reached out, I also had like, my knowledge was from a YouTuber called Bricky, and
Okay.
Bricky made like a 4-part series going through it. And so I had watched all of that because my games are mainly a racing game kind of guy,
Gotcha.
and I don't have the skills for that. But then when he reached out, I was like, all right, you know what? Let me just buy Uncharted 4 on the PC. Let's just play through it.
Mhm.
And as we played through it, that I think was the reason we said, you know what? This can't be a 15-minute thing.
Yeah.
These characters are so beloved. They're so good. You can't give everyone a time to shine in 15 minutes.
So we talk about the characters a little bit, and we'll jump into that a little deeper. But Uncharted is known for a sort of blend of historical myths and action adventure. I'm always surprised by how much history Nathan and his brother knows. It's amazing. It's just a human encyclopedia, right? So how did you decide on this on the Oxus Redemption as your specific narrative within that universe, and what research went into making that the sort of title of their fan film?
It kind of started firstly with So Chris handled the casting for the film, and he knew that he wanted Kurosh, which is both his name in the movie and his name in real life, to
Okay.
play the villain, he would say, not really a villain. Um, because he is of Persian background,
Hmm.
it sort of stemmed from there. So just off of his actual background being Persian, we thought, what can we delve into and start researching that's of Persian history? So started, what was it? Just like
So
researching the Oxus or something came
so
up.
in where there was Persia that nowadays is different countries, back when it was the Persian Empire, there's a river that's called the Oxus River.
Hmm.
In that, we found that there were a bunch of treasures that from history they're known to exist, but they were never found.
Gotcha.
And so when we researched that, we realized there's the window. It's a
Hmm.
real life treasure that was never found,
Yeah.
but it means a lot to the people of Persian descent. So then we asked Kurush if he could give us any more resources. He sent through some books, history books, websites
Yeah.
that pointed us in the right direction. And since we knew we wanted to focus on the Oxus River and those treasures,
Hmm.
Chris together, okay, so it's about the Oxus, and we had the story point of what happens to Sam Drake in our film, and this is about getting redemption for the brother.
Hmm.
So that's where Chris formed it together, the Oxus Redemption.
Gotcha. And then now, since I'm thinking about more beats of of the fan film that y'all made, because you said you played Uncharted 4. Well, that sort of puts the beginning of that redemption. He's playing, The Last of Us, which was kind of like the Crash Bandicoot part of the fourth game, which was wild. But I've stayed away from Last of Us because I didn't play it yet. I've watched the show before, so I was like, I know the show is different, but I'm
Yeah.
still sort of waiting to play that, but just those little parts in that just really made the fan film feel like part of that Uncharted universe. So really appreciate that. Um, so when it comes to those creative liberties and that versus that original material, right? You have four games to pull from, along with like downloadable content stories to pull from and stuff like that with characters. And fan films sort of walk that fine line between staying true to the original and then, as filmmakers, you all coming up with your original ideas, like with the Oxus Redemption, with that part of it. So, how did you balance respecting the established sort of Uncharted lore and then infusing your own sort of creative vision into it?
Way we sort of approached it, because we've had this mentality when watching other shows, remakes, sequels of anything, is the respect comes from if it's so beloved in whatever medium, if it's a comic, it's a book, if it's loved and respected, you have two options. You either tell a story that happened before it, or you tell a story that happened after it.
Hmm.
Because you will always make a inferior product to the thing that people truly love, because they'll always compare to it. So
Hmm.
when we were sort of coming up with this story, we realized what we have to do is truly understand the characters and what they've already gone through and evolve from there. Don't
Hmm.
go back on certain lessons, like in Uncharted 4, that Nathan Drake, pushes away Elena for a second, goes on an adventure with Sully and his brother. That was more so to get his kick at being a thief again. He's
Yeah,
good at it.
he was out of the game, it was calling him.
So for us to go back to it, we couldn't repeat the same thing.
Mhm.
So it's another situation. Okay, what if the brother actually dies? What if Elena is threatened and Sully is threatened? Well, then that's how Nathan Drake is forced, but can't rely on the others.
Yeah, and it's going to
Gotcha.
that whole. You know how his whole thing is he's lucky. He gets lucky with all
Yeah.
his situations. How much luck does he really have?
It's
Playing with that a
it's
little
in a
bit.
similar way the Iron Man 3 type of thing of like take away the Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
He's
Gotcha.
got, and in this case, his Iron Man suit is Sully, it's Elena, it's Sam.
It's Sam.
Okay,
Hmm.
so if the bad guy takes that away from him, takes that option away, what does he have? and in a way, it goes back to, okay, I have to go back to how I was when I was younger, operate alone, in a way by choice to protect them, but in order to stay true to the character arcs we've already seen before. So that's how we
Gotcha.
thought respect it, not by going back, by just evolving it.
Yeah.
With it being a fan film as well too. We talked about it a little bit earlier with the character interpretations, right? And staying true to those characters because they're so beloved. I mean, 4 games worth of Sully Nate, tag teaming on certain things, right? So, can you discuss that process of casting and directing your actors to embody those roles?
So for casting, Chris sourced a lot of the people and ran it through us for our opinions on certain actors.
A few of them were friends, so friends that he knew that either wanted to be involved somehow, wanted to play a character. So we were like, yeah, obviously.
And that mainly made up the villains. Since those were going to be original characters, we would have more.
Yeah, they didn't have to look like Sully or look like Sam, sort of thing.
Whereas when he casted Sully and Sam, it was mainly based off, first thing is, do they look like them?
Yes.
Yeah,
And look like them at this point. Like, it's supposed to be
years after.
Yeah.
So they have to look older than they did in 4.
So he sourced them and then he found their photos and sent them through to us and was like, what do you think? And we're like, yes, especially with like both Sam and Sully. But Sully was just so spot on with them.
You need the mustache, right? You need the mustache.
We were like,
Richard,
yes.
He was portrayed by Richard Cotter, a phenomenal actor.
very.
He comes from the theater world.
Yes.
Okay.
So directing him was
Very fun.
very fun.
Yeah.
When it came to directing, because we had basically an amalgamation of trained actors, new people, like it was a different. So we had to approach directing slightly differently.
Yeah, because most of them, this was their first feature film.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
they would
okay.
be- yeah, and like have a major role in it.
And something that we kept saying on set is that you're not here to do for the characters that are from the Uncharted universe. You are not here to do a copy of something that's been done before. You're not here to emulate Nolan North. You're not here to emulate Sully, like the voice performers. You're doing your version. It has to have the same core values, but it's your version. So that's something that when we were directing Sully, Sam, Elena, Nathan, we're doing their version. And the analogy we gave to them is that, like, Batman, there's several Batmans,
A
different.
lot.
And everyone has their favorite. But the thing that makes it more unique is they're not doing a copy of the previous.
They're all different.
But everyone agrees they're all Batman. So
Yeah.
that's what it was for the characters that existed in the games. For our actors, we said, it's your version. It's your version of Nate. It's your version of Sully, Sam, and Elena. And I think that allowed the actors to feel less pressured to be exactly that.
Like
And
the
do-
yeah.
An evolution. Do, okay, 5 years later, maybe some shit's happened, more life experience. It gives leeway for them to have their own version and have, like, fun playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and similar to the Batman analogy too. You know it's Batman, right? So when I'm looking at Nate, I'm looking at Sully. I see mustache cigar. Oh, I know who that guy is. You know, I see a Henley shirt and a gun holster. I know who that guy is. So I get definitely, yeah. So with your again, fan films sort of have a few challenges or hurdles to overcome, right? But everything in this one just looked amazing. The cinematography, the shots on location looked great. And I saw that it was shot in 13 days as well on a budget about $5,000 or $7,000.
How about
that.
Yeah. So what were some of those significant hurdles and challenges you all faced during production, and how did you address them? And just what were those? Because I can only imagine that after watching what I watched, and you telling me you made it off this and in this amount of time, I couldn't do it. Not many people could.
was hard in some aspects because it was something that none of us had ever done before either. Not of that scale. We've always done, again, the short films and very short videos that maybe only take a day to complete.
Yeah.
This was definitely something a lot grander than we'd ever done. So
I think the three things that we saw had to challenge was location,
yeah,
the
scheduling.
video. I was gonna say the video and the audio and scheduling.
Yeah,
Then. So
true.
the four. So video wise, we used the same camera that we had been using for the last 3 years. We both have the same camera, which is the Sony A7 III. That's about a 2,000 AUD camera body, so relatively inexpensive. But it's something that we were comfortable with, and knowing that we were going to have a tight schedule, there was no room for us to, or even in the budget, rent something that
More
if
expensive.
something goes wrong or something's not working, all right, whip out Google, whip out YouTube.
Yeah.
How do we fix this?
Yeah. Which still, even with what we had, there were times that our equipment, there's always technical difficulties. You can never expect everything to just go smoothly.
Yeah.
So there were still times that our gimbal that we shot with right up there would just
Not work.
not want to work. And so we'd sit there having, why this is doing this? And then take a pause
That's
and
wild.
while we're just like sitting there for 5 minutes trying to work out how to fix it. Because again, it was just the two of us really like navigating all of our equipment that we brought along to the sets to shoot
Like
with.
I was the one primarily on camera. Sarah was the one doing audio
Yeah.
while directing at the same time.
Yeah. So it was us bouncing between each other, but then also I'm on one side and he's on the other side, and it's like, it was hard.
But the way we sort of addressed the budget issue is that video wise, we knew at the end of the day, we knew this was going on YouTube. YouTube is going to compress quality. Okay. Would we like to have a Red or an ARRI camera? Absolutely. But with that comes, we need a focus puller. We need this person. We need that person. We can't do run and gun.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the next thing we have to upgrade? The audio. So with the audio, we bought a Sennheiser boom microphone, a proper audio recorder, and we were blessed with these guys. They're called CLP Creative Studios. Chris Voz and John Voz, our composers, who did all of the audio mixing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amazing duo, that brothers from Melbourne, so south of us, and they reached out to us. Fantastic people. Like, they mixed the audio so that it sounded as professional as what you hear in the movies, you know?
And they
It
did
sounded
in
great.
Thank you.
That was them.
And that was the thing that we realized with our technical and budget shortcomings. Audio is like 60% of the game.
Yeah.
You could have a pretty picture. If it sounds like ass, you're not going to keep watching it.
So a good chunk of that budget was fresh audio gear that would give us the highest quality for the composers to go in and actually clean it up.
Yeah. And then scheduling all of that. It was about, like, say, in the film, there's like 3 scenes that are in Nate's apartment. So to get that all done, we did it in a day.
Yeah, it was like 12 hours of but we started and just went through short intermissions every now and again for like a little snack, a drink, whatever.
A break, yeah.
It was pretty much just go, go, go.
And the scheduling with that, it came with like, all right, so when Nate gets apprehended, then there's a fight. That's quite technical. Okay, let's break that one into 2 to 3 parts, like 2 to 3 minutes, so that we can go, all right, let's fully do the fight. Let's do what happens before. Let's do what happens after. And with that, that's why the stripped down crew, it allowed for easier scheduling because less people to schedule. But when shit was going wrong technically, either the camera or the gimbal or something, it was just us two.
Between us.
Yeah.
And even cases where I couldn't help him or
Yeah.
he couldn't help me. So we're just juggling this by ourselves on our sides.
One funny thing at the end, you know when Nate and Elena, they're on the cliff at the end of the movie?
Yeah.
So that scene, I wanted quite a compressed look, so I put an 85mm, but for that I have to stand quite far back. The wind was heavy, So I was further back. Sarah hid behind a rock.
Had my headphones on when the boom popped.
So in that sense, I had no idea what they were saying. I couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
So it was on her to direct. So I just yelled, action! And then I just assumed what they
Hope for
said
the
was
best.
good.
Yeah.
And then Sarah was directing them from behind
I
the
was
rock.
like, it's good.
It's good. I was like, are we done?
But what was your greatest achievement through a lot of those? Like, here's something that went wrong, but you were like, hey, we got this, and we went this way with it instead.
The first one that comes to my head is what was for us the last day of shooting was,
Shit.
you know, when Nathan Drake is in the cave and he's going through and he fishes from the waterfall out the actual Oxus bracelet. Yeah, that day started off so brutal. One, it was quite a warm day, and we actually had to hike with our gear, and it was just the three of us two and Chris. Had all our gear, so our backpacks with our cameras, the gimbal, the boom, the audio stuff, the drone.
We
Get there, we're all sweating, we're all tired. He drops the gimbal and the camera because we're walking, but it's slippery because there's moss and there's water and there's everything.
Yep.
So he slips. Chris also slipped and fell on his bum, like on water.
Yep.
Yeah.
So everything was just kind of going wrong. Our gimbal was like a little bit wonky afterwards. Like
But
it was overall really stressful.
But because it was only the three of us, I didn't have anyone to hold, because I needed someone to hold the monitor. The monitor broke off of the whole thing when I dropped it.
Okay.
So I needed to somehow hold this thing while holding the gimbal.
And it's heavy.
While Sarah's over there doing the audio, and I'm like,
Because
okay.
I've got all my gear too, and I'm
Yeah.
chaos. Like such chaos. And Chris is like, ow, that hurt. And
We're all getting broke by the time
we're
we
all
finish.
dying. We're all hungry at this point because we've had to hike up and down and around like a few times.
And then to top it off, when we go to leave, we see one of the deadliest snakes in the world, which obviously is here in
Very
Australia.
Yeah. We
Agreed.
see they're pretty chill, thankfully. They don't actually come and attack. But we saw they're called red belly black snakes.
Gotcha.
We saw one of those and we're like, yep, that's our sign to just skedaddle.
And it was...
But the shots turned out beautiful.
Yeah.
And like we look at those shots and we hear the music that the composers came up with. And we're like, damn, that was worth it. No one would know the turmoil that we went through. On that day.
I'm sure. Like when I'm watching, I'm like, "Oh, this looks amazing." And when you all watching it, you're like, "Oh, remember that? That was a hell of a day, right?" How was that writing process? It was you two and Chris, right? Who went through and started through that. Have you ever written? I know it's a lengthier project than before, right? So how was that just to go through from like, essentially it's sort of like the first question, but more expanded. Like how did that work for this time out?
So what it was a couple meetings just between the three of us and wish listing what we sort of would want to see and what's accessible.
Yeah.
And so that's where the idea of like the waterfall, car park, where we're going to end the story, those ideas, just as a rough general, like we'd like to end this here. We'd like this to be in the middle. Okay, how do we connect this? And then we just talked amongst us. And then I went away and actually wrote it, the first draft. Wrote it and sent it to the two of them and said, all right, have at it.
Yeah.
Make the changes, do
Discussed
what you need to.
it, you know.
And then we found, okay, maybe change his dialogue. Maybe we need to add a scene here. Okay, went back, edited it. So that's how it basically came about. Is just talking in a bunch of meetings, wish listing, writing the first draft, sending it back. What do we need?
Plus
Editing.
all the research from having to try and make it as accurate as possible when it came to anything that was like in the world of Persia and that whole...
And sometimes it was little nuggets of things that would just appear. Like if we were, because we're photographers by trade, and so we were doing other jobs, like other photo shoots or a music video or whatever, and we'd be driving back, and then out of nowhere would hit us, okay, there's a problem. What is the motivation here? oh shit, right, I didn't even think about that. We'd come up with it. Or
Yeah.
Chris would say, well, did we consider how Nathan Drake gets the ring back, the Sick Harvest Magnum ring? And that was just a voice note. He's like, did we consider that? And we're, coming up with a creative solution for that one.
Yeah.
So it was just little amendments just
Here and there.
whenever it would spark, just to like tap up the holes and fix it.
Yeah.
Since the release of Oxus Redemption, what's been the most surprising or impactful feedback you've received so far from that Uncharted community?
That PlayStation actually reshared it on their story. So the Australian PlayStation page shared it and gave us 10.
Oh, that's
So,
wild. Okay, congratulations.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest, like, most exciting one.
One of the other ones that actually before it released, you know the Spider-Man 2 game?
Yeah, I got it.
So, I still haven't played it yet, but I need to. But that when they did like an event here in Sydney to, you know, just like promote it, new game coming out. Chris went there and
He actually spoke to
the developers of Insomniac,
Yeah.
because Insomniac made Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And so the developers were there to promote the game. They came up to Chris and they said, "Oh my god, you're making the Uncharted fan film, right?" And he had never met them before. He's like, "Yeah."
I think he actually went and introduced himself, and they said, "Yeah, we know who you are."
No, that
Oh
was
yeah.
Sony producer.
There was
two occasions. There we go.
So the Insomniac developers approached him. They were
Yes.
fans, and they said everyone in Insomniac was waiting for it to come out.
Oh really?
And so he was like, "That's insane." Then he went to talk to a Sony producer that was also at the event, more in the sense to just be like, "Don't sue us." Yeah?
Yeah.
We're cool here. And he's like, "I'm Chris." And they go, "Yeah, we know who you are."
That's it.
He's like, "Oh, how? You're making the Uncharted fan film, right?" "Yeah. We're looking forward to seeing it." Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're okay to make it because we're not profiting off of it. But
Okay, that's
still,
what I was gonna ask too. Like how do you walk that fine line between, Sony saying, "Hey, stop," or like keep going? Is it just if you make a profit off of it? Is that the
as long as it's a not-for-profit movie,
Yeah.
then we're fine. It's if we
Okay.
started making money off of it, then they would be upset. But like we've heard, Naughty Dog, they're happy when people like make fan films out of
Yeah.
their games and stuff. So we knew we were alright.
Now with Gotham Noir and WB, we're a bit more cautious. But at the end of the day, it fundamentally comes down to we're not profiting off of your IP. So
Yeah.
it's all
No.
good.
Fan
And
film.
we're not tarnishing your IP. So it like legally it's
Fine.
it's
It's
fine.
fine. So you hinted to it. We'll get to it in a second. Gotham Noir. But do you have any plans or aspirations for future projects in that Uncharted universe, or another film well, we'll get into Gotham Noir, but just the Uncharted universe. Are we coming back? Are we done with it? Are we moving on to something else? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just did. Yes.
We've gotten asked that.
We
before.
have. For now, I think Uncharted's just she's out there.
We did it.
We're good.
If-
We're happy with what we've produced, and I feel like the story ended really well and doesn't really need to be touched again, unless for some reason we decided to do like a prequel or something like
Yeah.
that. But we're
If
pretty
there's-
happy with how we left it.
If there's no story, we won't tell it.
Yeah.
There has to be a good
A reason for it.
reason. But we are not closing the door on it. If it happens in the future, if we come up with something cool, if not, we're happy with what we did.
So this goes into Gotham Noir. Saw the photo for it. I saw the sort of teaser sort of thing for it. Too big huge Batman fan. Can you give us any insight into that project and how's that going so far?
So we just had our first table read on the weekend, which was
I saw
really
the
cool.
photo of that too.
That went really well. Everyone had a good vibe with each other, and a lot of the crew is also from Uncharted anyway, just with a couple of extras, so
'Cause
we
that
all had
was-
good vibes.
That was something that came from Uncharted that we were hoping for, and it did happen, which was it showed what everyone could do to the point that now, after Uncharted released, so many people messaged us and said, whatever we can do, whatever you're doing next, we're in. So we're already starting this one with double the amount of crew.
Yeah.
So now we
Gotcha.
actually have multiple
Yeah.
producers. We have
More
three.
people involved that just are handling things that we can now take our mind off because they're handling an art department sector or
Camera op,
camera op, first
producers,
ADs,
three
and stuff
visual
like that.
effects artists,
Yeah.
illustrators, costume
So-
designers.
So it won't be you all and Chris on like a rooftop somewhere over.
Definitely will be.
It will be for we'll tell you this. It will be that for one scene.
Okay.
For one scene,
Okay.
bring it down to the original, but the rest of it is massive crews,
Yeah.
extras, sets this time.
Yeah, so it's definitely a lot bigger of a project than what Uncharted was.
Yeah.
It's also, another little tidbit, gonna be probably double the length.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Because you just went from 15 minutes short film to 54, and we're gonna double that.
Just
Yeah.
wait for the third film. Hey, we'll keep trending 4 hours.
We don't take it step by step, we like double step.
Yeah.
you know?
Gotcha. Yeah, well, I'm
Yeah.
super excited to see what that is because I'm intrigued by it. I saw Chris's Bruce Wayne. I was like, I believe it. It's just like the Sully and the mustache, right? I was like, looks like Bruce Wayne to me. But yeah, definitely with from a fan's perspective, from that Uncharted community, I want to say thanks for taking the time and doing all that and creating a fan film that a lot of people have seen that have seen the actual property of it. Not to slight that in any way, but this felt more authentic to what we knew.
Thank you.
And I think that was the whole point of it, right? I think it was to like let's continue that story and make it authentic and something for the fans as well. And from a fan to you all who wrote it along with Chris too and the rest of the cast, thanks for doing that. I was fiending for more Uncharted, and you all scratched that itch, so I really appreciate it a lot. I know we talked about other projects and stuff coming up, but if you want to now, just tell everybody sort of where they can find you. I know you do photography as well, and maybe if there's any other projects along with Gotham Noir that comes out, So I'm gonna give you the floor to sort of give your socials and everything else.
Well, you can find us on Instagram at Luxxe Media, Luxxe Media.
We're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Within our socials, you can find the 2 movies, Instagram and TikTok accounts. Uncharted: The Oxus Redemption, Gotham Noir movie. Both of them will continuously put out updates. Uncharted obviously is finished, but we still are
We're still
posting.
posting regularly on there, getting those videos up,
But the Gotham Noir one is the one you want to follow for updates, new stuff as soon as the film starts getting into production, posters, trailers, all of that.
everything
and
will
a
slowly
release.
start popping up fairly soon.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm gonna throwing you on the bus again.
Okay.
Possible release date for that? Has it been thought about, or do you want to say it? I'm not gonna force you to if you don't want to.
Funny enough, the release date was one of the first things we thought about.
Yeah, it was actually the first thing we decided, but it's definitely late 2024, so end of the year.
End of the year.
Okay.
Around.
All right. Well, we'll be on the lookout for it. Again, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. This has been another, thank you so much. This has been another episode of All Star Fandom. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, do all the social media stuff. We'll also have Uncharted, the Oxus Redemption in the description too, and we'll keep sharing that as well. Let everybody else see this film too. It was amazing. But again, Danielo and Sarah, really appreciate it. Again, this has been another episode of All Star Fandom. Peace. Uncharted, the Oxus Redemption is now available to watch on YouTube, and be sure to follow Luxxe Media on Instagram and TikTok to stay up to date on upcoming projects.